up with it, world? It's your boy Sleepy J. You are tuned in to the Know It All Sports Podcast. I am your host, Sleepy J, and this is my co-host,
Coach Rudy. And look, we have stopped our world tour. We had to stop our world tour because the Cowboys kept losing when we were on the road, on the imaginary road. So I said, F that. We are back in Dallas, Texas, baby.
We are live back in Texas.
Yes.
All right.
All right. So let's start off with some Cowboy updates.
Cowboy updates, guys. Okay, the update is that they won on Thanksgiving. It was an amazing game. If you guys seen it, we had a lot of turkey.
Cousin Johnny, they didn't win.
Then what game was I watching?
Not the Cowboys.
Damn it.
Yeah, that's what we were collectively saying.
No, seriously, yeah. They lost big, well, not big time, but it was
36-33.
So are we going to dissect this, or are we just going to talk about updates?
Let's overview it. But look, one of the things we got to say, because some of you guys are really down on the Cowboys because of it.
Yeah.
And I got to explain to you why you shouldn't be so down.
Okay.
Okay, first off, yes, the refs screwed us.
Refs are a big part of it.
Yes, the refs have been screwing the Cowboys for the better part of this season.
Okay.
There have been a lot of bad refereed games this year that the Cowboys have been involved in. So you have legitimate gripes when you say, how can a quarterback fall into my leg and I get penalized? That is a legitimate gripe.
Yeah.
You also have a legitimate gripe when the wide receiver is pulling the cornerback's helmet into his chest.
Yeah.
And the cornerback gets penalized for not turning around to look at the football. So when you're looking at those,
let's not forget he made a football move and they said that.
Oh, you're talking about the fumble that wasn't a fumble?
Yeah.
That was a fumble?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have very legitimate gripes if you are saying that the referees stole this game from the Cowboys.
Yes.
Because honestly, the way they called this game, they did. Yeah. Everyone gets hung up on the idea that 14 penalties were accepted against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Man, it seems like 20 penalties were called against them, though. It was just awful.
So me watching the game, I was sitting there thinking walking away from the game, I just accepted the fact that we lost. And I honestly, it was so upsetting in the idea of how they were lost because they were losing for a majority of the game, right? They
were losing, I think, the whole game through until they
caught up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
fourth quarter.
It was, and I was watching. And I was watching enough to know this is some bullshit. I didn't want to sit there intensive watching every play for play because it was some bullshit. That fumble that they took back, that was bullshit. Because I was like, well, if he didn't have control, I get it. But I was like, no, he tucked that and it got smacked out of his hands. It was not he didn't have control of the ball long enough. No, he tucked it, and as he was tucking it, it was actually a perfect stripping is what it was. Because he was turning around, he's getting ready to take off, and they smacked it out of his hand. And it's one of those ones that would piss you off if I was that player and that happened to me, I'd have been so pissed off if they would have got that ball.
So,
but I just want to say I completely washed my mind of all the penalties. Because I was still thinking, why the fuck is our kicker still our fucking kicker? Had he fucking made those fucking 2 kicks?
Yeah. Put the penalties aside.
Yeah.
Those 4 points that he missed.
Right.
are the difference in us winning that game
or at least, keeping it for a little bit longer. Yeah, exactly.
Look, so those 4 points would have had us with the lead at the end, forcing the Raiders to go for a touchdown to tie us, versus that field goal.
Right.
And all that kind of it. So when you look at it, the reason you should not lose your shit over this loss is because yes, you have a legitimate gripe at the referees
Yes.
and the play calling that ensued because of that.
Right.
You have a legitimate reason to say, okay, maybe we lost because we didn't have Amari and because CD left injured halfway through the game.
Yeah.
Because those are facts that happened. You had 4 drop passes in that game.
Wait, did CD play? I don't think
CD played in the first half. Then he got hurt. He got the concussion.
I thought that was the game before.
Oh, it was the game before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
CD
he missed.
didn't play because he was on concussion protocol.
So you were without your top 2 receivers. I was getting that confused. I'm old. Leave me alone. But you
they
were
were close games. Back to back.
You were without your top 2 receivers, and you had a banged up running back in Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah.
Now here's the other thing. Despite those things, you lose this game by 3 points.
Yeah.
That's why you don't have to go crazy. You still have 2 fewer losses than any team in your own division.
Yeah.
Washington has I think a 4-6 record or something like that, and you
Giants
have 4. You have a 7-4 record. So Giants and Philly each have 7 losses. So you don't have to think that the sky is falling just because you had this loss.
Right.
So I don't want people to keep thinking, oh, well, same old Cowboys as before. And it very well may be.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you this, like I've told you guys before. How many teams win a championship a year?
1.
You're only going to have one team that's truly happy.
Yeah.
Everyone else is going to feel like it's a failure. And for everyone who says, yeah, but the Cowboys haven't been there, blah, blah, blah. All right, well, the last time the 49ers won a championship was in 94.
Right.
Last time we won a championship was 95.
Yeah.
So, yeah, some of you are going to say, but the Niners have gone twice since then. I don't care. They lost. They didn't win.
Right.
So, you want to be upset that we haven't won a title since 95? Cool. I dig that. But don't pretend like everyone else is winning a title. Shoot. The Patriots got 6 of them since then.
Right.
Giants got another 2. What is it? Denver's got 3. There's been a handful of teams who have swallowed up the titles since the Cowboys' last title.
Right.
And the vast majority of the teams have not. How many championships Buffalo got in that time? None, right? Okay, so for everyone who wants to say, oh, is the Cowboys same thing as before, like Stephen A. does.
Yeah.
F that. It ain't about that. These guys, half of these guys weren't born the last time the Cowboys won a title.
You know, the funny thing, in all honesty, though, is we're in a what have you done for me lately, like, game. You know, football is very much what have you done for me lately. It's based on how we pay our players and whatever. I was like, but one thing we do know is, like, even though it's been so long since the Cowboys have made an appearance, it's still a topic every fucking season.
Every week.
Like, even whenever they're not, it's the off season and they're still talking. They don't talk about the other fucking teams. They talk about, oh, Jerry was doing this. Oh, Ezekiel Elliott's out here doing that. Like, they're still watching what everybody's fucking doing from the Cowboys.
That's without us winning a title.
Without winning, without even coming close. Because how many fucking times have we made it to the playoffs?
The furthest we've gone to the second round a handful of times.
Yeah. So, yeah, that. But anyways, let's move on with these updates.
So I mean, don't go and get all upset. Right now, there's not a dominant team in the NFL.
Right.
Not in either conference. There's nobody that's running away with it. Probably the team that's looking best is the New England Patriots. And guess what? We beat them. We're the last team to have beaten them. And they got the same amount of losses as us, 4.
Yeah.
All right. So that gives you a little bit of update from that Raiders game, the Thanksgiving game. We got another game this Thursday against the Saints. And we have 3 players right now who are not going to be there. One of them's a question. Steele, our right tackle, is definitely out. He has COVID. Nashawn Wright, our cornerback, he's out as well. And Amari Cooper still has not passed the COVID return to play protocols. It's been over 10 days. He missed 2 games already, but they're not saying that he's cleared the other tests to return.
Right.
And look, it's COVID. COVID. I had 2 football players last season who missed over 8 months of not just the season that they missed. Right. They couldn't return to practice for 8 months.
Wow.
So when we look at it, yeah, most of the players are going to return after a couple of weeks. But right now, Amari Cooper is still a question mark. Hopefully it don't take him 8 months. But, I mean, he was not vaccinated like those players that I had that, right. Theirs wasn't a choice. They didn't have the opportunity to get vaccinated at that point. But as far as Amari Cooper, he got COVID. I don't know how it's doing with his body, but obviously he hasn't been elevated to the point where he could practice. Right. So he still may miss this game. Aside from that, Mike McCarthy, the Cowboys head coach, he is going to miss the game. So Dan Quinn, the defense coordinator, is going to be the acting coach.
Yeah.
And I think the bigger question is there's 4 other people in the organization that have COVID, but they haven't told us if they're players, practice players, or coaches.
Wasn't there other coaches already like at this game?
Yeah, we had a couple coaches missing. I think 3 coaches missing at the last game. And it could be that maybe those 3 are some of these 4 other people that they're talking about. Yeah. But they were unclear with it. They had said 8 people were in question for this game. And McCarthy, Steele, Nashawn Wright, Amari Cooper, that should be 4 of them.
Yeah.
But we don't know who the other 4 are. Your thoughts?
One, we were talking off air, and I didn't realize that they had so many. Like, I heard that they were saying that we're starting to have a COVID problem that, like, it's going around in the team. I didn't realize that they're saying that we're starting to seem like we've had more outbreaks than any other team.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they were saying, that we've had the most out of all the NFL teams.
Which is really unfortunate, especially like when you had people like former players as well as even the owners saying like, oh, we are all vaxxed. Like, we're so gung-ho on this.
So this is...
And, I mean, we do know, like, if you get vaxxed, you can still get it.
Okay, no, but this is where they have misled people. So Jerry Jones came out today and he said, and I'm not sure where he said it. I'm assuming it was on 105.3 The Fan, since he has a couple of shows that he does with them or whatever.
Yeah.
So Jerry came out and said a couple of stupid things. And no, this doesn't fall into the stupid things I heard category. Yeah. So he said Mike McCarthy is the most vaccinated person in the world.
All right.
I'm sorry, but that's just stupid. like he was trying to say that McCarthy takes precautions and stuff. Exactly. But so he came out and said that. But on top of that, he said that the whole team is 100% vaccinated.
Yeah.
But with this caveat, he said vaccinated or vaccinated through having gotten it. He's working off the idea that they have the antibodies.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. Your sister got COVID and then 3 months later got COVID.
Yeah.
Right? We understand that getting the COVID vaccine lessens your chance of getting COVID.
Yeah.
And more so of passing it on.
Right.
There has been no definitive timetable that has been said with how long someone can go from having gotten COVID to getting it again.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't seen any study that said you're going to not for sure get it for this amount of time. So coming into this season, if the Cowboys had, let's say, 20 players or 20 people, who coming into the season had the antibodies for it by having gotten it. What month are we in, Cousin Johnny?
We're in 12th. Actually, we're getting ready to be in the 12th.
We're about to be in December, right?
Yeah, literally in a few hours.
If you had COVID in September, now we're looking 3 months later.
Yep.
That doesn't mean you can't get it again. So Dan Quinn, who had it in September or August, guess what? Dan Quinn might very well get it again if he's working off only the antibodies and not the vaccine.
Right.
And that's why the Cowboys are being disingenuous with this. They're saying they're 100% vaxxed or have the antibodies.
Yeah.
No. It don't work like that.
Yeah, and then to top it off, now we're starting to introduce another variant amongst the other variants that we've already had that they're saying is actually 30 times mutated from the last variations that we've already had.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother can of worms, and it really here's the bottom line. You told everyone you got vaxxed. You didn't. And the way that it affects differently, especially at least in this league, the way it's affecting everyone is the protocol. If you've been vaxxed, your return time, from my understanding, is a lot sooner as opposed to someone that hasn't been vaxxed. You're required.
Your potential return time, and also if you've been vaxxed, you don't have to test daily.
Yeah. So, and that's where it's really coming down to, like, and especially since we're approaching the postseason soon.
Yep.
This is what we said even prior to this. And I don't know if we ever said it on air, but that's where it was going to come into a play. At least for our fantasy league, we mentioned this. As the season goes on, COVID's going to start hitting people here and there. We made our fantasy league a little bit deeper for that purpose, because you're gonna. It's inevitable. I don't know. I've had one or two players that got COVID.
I've had a few players on my fantasy squad too.
So that's a thing. And if you're actually playing in the NFL football league, you would imagine that you wouldn't want this thing to be happening where you're going to be out for not one game, but 2 games, especially getting closer to the playoffs.
There's gonna be teams in the playoffs who are going to lose vital players. Imagine Aaron Rodgers getting his COVID on the week of their first game. Yeah. Or the game before the Super Bowl. Or at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
These guys are... Look, I'll be honest with you. I think if he gets on the Super Bowl, if he were playing, they would hide it. They wouldn't say it.
Right.
That's my honest
If you could...
Well, yeah,
assuming that you're non, showing, but like if it's affecting your lungs and
but as far as in the playoff games to get to the Super Bowl, there's going to be some team that loses a key person.
Yeah,
and it very well could be the Cowboys.
Yeah,
I mean it could be Dak. And look, I'm not saying that Dak's not vaccinated. I don't know if he is. I'm guessing he is, but I don't know. These guys and this team keep trying to paint a picture that everything's great, and then we hear, you're missing games.
Yeah.
It goes back to what Irvin said. If you're really trying to win, you do everything possible. That way, you don't hurt the team. Now, Irvin got some backlash from that.
Yeah.
Because people were saying, well, if that was the case, you wouldn't have been all coked up.
Yeah.
And he kind of hid from it, didn't want to address that. But I will say this, 2 parts to it. Maybe LT was as great as he was because he was always coked up. Maybe Michael Irvin was as great as he was because he was always coked up, all that extra energy. I'm not saying that was the case. I'm just saying that doesn't necessarily mean
that he was
that it hurt him. We know that at the end of his career, he got suspended for drugs
Yeah.
But there was also other BS that went into that. But besides that, part of what was happening in the early 90s when they were partying and doing all that, they were working off the idea that we can party at night and it won't affect it because when they played, they were playing fantastic.
Right.
And they were going off the idea that back then, the cops were going to let them go because they were the Dallas Cowboys. So they weren't putting themselves or their team at risk of losing them, you know?
Yeah.
And that was part of the idea behind them having the White House, them doing all these things that they did. So when he said, look, if you were really trying to win, you would do everything you could and you wouldn't let something get in your way.
Yeah.
It was a different time back then. They were doing everything they could.
You know, funny. I've been listening to Mike Tyson's book again just because I was watching. I don't know. I'm on a Mike Tyson binge right now. Anyways, in his book, he was talking about all the great boxers before him, and what he was saying, like, oh, this boxer, even though they were only fighting like 6 rounds, they would do like, we've talked about it, like twice those rounds. They would, run in the snow. They do all these like really obscene, obscure things compared to what other people would do. But that to them was like, that's why they were winning. They were winning because they were willing to run in the snow. They were willing to go extra rounds to prove that they could do this. Whereas to the average person that's, they still good boxers, but they're only fighting for the 12 rounds or the 13 rounds, whatever their limit was. Whereas these other guys were like, no, I'm doing intense double time rounds for the, to create the endurance, to brutalize themselves, to make sure that they can handle whatever comes their way. And that's the same thing with when we talk about the 90s Cowboys, where they're like, oh, we partied hard and we practiced even harder. Like, you can listen to them talk about how, like, oh, we were out all night, and then they still were the first ones on the field and had already been practicing for an hour before we even got there. Like, it's not a secret. Like, you can look up documented footage and interviews of all these fucking people. They'll say the same shit. We're not just saying this because we're huge Cowboys fans. We're not just saying this to boast and like, oh, they're gods or whatever. Like, no, we're telling you this because it's documented fact at this point. It's not just speculation or wondering. Like, you can look this type of stuff up nowadays.
Yeah, and so when we're looking at this, you got these guys that are going to be missing in this game. I still think we get the Saints. I still think we beat the Saints. But, last year, the NFL shuffled some games around. Yeah. And I think if this game had been on a Sunday, then maybe they pushed it off to Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
But with it being the Cowboys and it being a Thursday, they're not going to miss this cash cow.
Right.
Last Thursday's game got them the highest ratings that they had seen since 1990.
Yeah.
So this game's going to be kept where it is. But, you got these guys that are out. If Jerry Jones was being honest and everyone's 100% vaccinated now, then we shouldn't see this anymore. But that's not going to be the case. We'll see how many more people get COVID next week for the Cowboys, and we'll see where we end up. Aside from them, Tristan Hill, Cowboys D tackle.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that one.
Suspended 2 games without pay because he punched guard John Simpson from the Raiders after the game. And they said it was more because it was a premeditated thing. Like, he waited and waited and waited till John Simpson had finished doing something, and then he slugged him.
Right.
I think I have a problem with this because that guy who choked out CeeDee Lamb a few weeks ago never got punished.
Okay.
And
this guy gets
and
2
we
games.
punch somebody and get 2 games.
Yeah.
I got a problem with that.
So I have a problem with it, but it's more of because it did happen after the game. Like, if it would have happened during the game, I wouldn't have whatever. And there's, I don't know. I guess maybe, I don't know. There's 2 ways you can look at it. On one hand, I didn't do it during the game because that was like office hours. After the game, I was doing it on my own time. So maybe, want to do some legal action to it. That's one thing, but it's But that's me just being a regular person and thinking about it. But in all honesty, like you bring up a very good point. The fact that and a choking is a lot worse than a
Exactly.
punch, because choking is actually affects your windpipes.
Damage your breathing.
Yeah. A punch is
long term.
Yeah, I mean a punch.
Look, honestly, no, he punched him while dude was wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
He was more likely to hurt his own hand than he was to hurt that guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate.
It's the double standards that come against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
The Cowboys get the love and they get the TV cameras and all that because they are the Cowboys. But they also get scrutinized worse because they are the Cowboys. Zeke got that 6-game suspension or 4-game suspension all those years ago for something that he did in college.
Yeah.
Which was total BS. But that type of stuff happens to the Cowboys.
Right.
All right, so let's move on from that.
Enough of the Cowboys, or is that it?
From the Cowboys updates.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
We've talked enough of the Cowboys today.
Notre Dame. NCAA. Their football coach, Brian Kelly, left to go to LSU.
Yeah. Oh, you want me to go into this? Yeah, I'm more shocked at the. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of college movement at this point. I'm just kind of curious, like why all of a sudden some of these movements are happening. What's the drive? Is it poor program? Is it it's run its course and we're ready to move on, or better options other places? I'm not really sure.
I think for me, the shocker on this is Notre Dame is actually in position right now to play for a national championship.
Yeah.
And yet his excuse for leaving was, I have a better chance of winning a national championship with LSU, which is really just BS because, look, you're literally in position to play and win a national championship right now, whereas LSU is not in the playoff scene. So
for me, I'd venture there's probably some sort of a scandal that they're trying to avoid.
Honestly, what I think it is simple. I think he wanted the more money.
Yeah.
LSU offered it, and Notre Dame said, yeah, we're not going to match. It's just as simple as that. Look, when you feel that you're a good coach.
Yeah.
And look, I think Notre Dame might feel he's a good coach too. But they wanted championships.
Yeah.
And since he hasn't brought them a championship, they're like, okay, well, we can let you go.
Right.
We're not going to pay you more when you haven't brought us anything.
Again,
and if they're willing to pay you,
done for me lately,
then
I mean, granted,
go for
it's college, but yeah.
And I can't be mad at him for it.
Right.
And I can't be mad at LSU for it or Notre Dame.
Right.
Because look, in reality, you got to look out for yourself. Right?
Right.
I mean, eventually, they're going to get rid of you.
Yeah.
That's the nature of being a coach.
Yeah. If you're not producing wins, why are you here?
Or enough wins.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, at very least, if you have if you're not at least 500 winning at home, at very least, if you can win your
depending on the programs, though. Some programs is if you're not undefeated and playing for a championship, you suck.
Well, I'm just saying.
There's a lot of college programs that operate with that idea.
Yeah.
Even though it's unrealistic.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, at very least, you need to win enough home and maybe a couple road games to kind of have it.
That's in the pros. College, these guys are idiots.
Well.
No, I'm serious, man.
The alumni pay a lot of money for their college programs.
These programs in colleges have too high expectations for most of these guys.
Yeah.
I understand high expectations. I understand expecting to win every year.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. But
I don't want to coach this like, we're going to lose all season long.
Yeah. Look, Chalk can suffer 3 losses, but we're going to be solid. Yeah. No. I want someone who wants to win it all, expects to win it all, and expects to be undefeated and knows that you have to be undefeated to give yourself a chance, right? That said, not every program is going to be undefeated.
Yeah. For me, that's the biggest thing is like you have to think like you can't win every game. Like you can try, you should try, but yeah.
Yeah. All
Sorry.
right, let's go ahead and move on to stupid takes.
My favorite part.
So before we get into the good stuff,
Are we gonna go over your running back list?
no,
Damn it.
we'll get into it. All right, so before we get into the good stuff, the Texas Rangers free agent moves matter. That is a very stupid take. You know who's been saying that?
Who's that?
The local media. They've been getting excited about these guys that the Rangers have signed this offseason because they were big-name guys and they're getting long contracts. And I'm not even going to name these guys. And I'm going to tell you why.
Why is that?
Because it doesn't matter. The Rangers, over the last 5 years, at least, when they have someone that's any good, they trade them. Why? Because the Rangers suck. So, at the midway point, just after the All-Star game, somebody else wants them so they can help their championship aspirations. The Rangers say, okay, take him. Whether we got him on the cheap or we got him on a decent contract, we send them away. Because we were like, we're not going to pay them more. So go ahead and take them. Send us your crap.
Right.
And
not send us your crap.
Oh, yeah. Send us your crap. We're going to say it's good. And that's what they've been doing.
By ugly houses.
So, for me, these two guys that they've signed so far, I don't care about them signing them because if they don't trade them this year, they'll trade them the following year. And these guys aren't going to finish their contracts in Texas. Why? Because we have too many other sucky players. So these guys are going to want to play on contenders. And when we're losing, the management's going to come say, well, why are we paying these guys so much money if we're not winning? Right. Because baseball, you have 9 players playing at once.
Right.
And if you're not doing well, if you got 2 guys doing well, you're not going to win.
Yeah.
And if only 2 guys are worth a damn, then the other guys are going to mess it up. If I'm a really good third baseman and I throw it on the money to first base, my first baseman drops it, guess what? My throw didn't matter worth a damn.
Right.
So when I look at it, I don't care that we signed 2 of the prominent players in the free agency realm.
Yeah.
They're not going to be Rangers past next year's trade deadline.
Okay.
So I don't care about this, and neither should you. So if you do, then you're stupid for it. So that's my first stupid take.
Okay.
You want to say anything on it?
I'm not because I don't know much about the Rangers, but I do want to say one thing. Since we're talking baseball, one thing that bothers me about the Cardinals is they've been going through management pretty fast in the past years.
They've been flipping managers like crazy.
And my wife, being the Cardinals expert that she is, she said that Matheny would have actually worked out had they given him just a little bit more time. But they're like running through these management so much faster. And because I at the end of every season and I see these movements, I ask her, because she's a huge Cardinals fan, I ask her about, what do you think about this person being moved and whatever. She's intrigued by the new person that they've signed, but she thinks that it came down to like the owners don't want to pay. That they're just like, it's not that they don't have the money, they just don't want to pay for good talent or good people to stick around. So they're just like, we'll just start fresh with someone younger and newer or whatever.
All right, so to that idea, Jimmy Johnson was the Cowboys head coach for 2 championships.
Yes.
And he left when he overheard a drunk Jerry Jones telling other people any one of 500 coaches could coach this team to a championship.
Yeah, I remember hearing this.
And the next year they went out with Barry Switzer and they didn't win the championship.
Right.
The following year they did.
Right.
But they had to get Deion Sanders to help them with that.
Right.
Right? So apparently Jerry Jones was wrong
And
because
that
he
team-
got 1-500. And then let's take it a step further. How many years has it been since the Cowboys won a championship?
yeah,
Too damn many, right?
yeah,
So if coaches don't matter,
and
and you can get anyone to do it, and so long as you have the talent, anybody who's worth a damn can do it, you know, and there's a
Yeah.
bunch of guys that could. When you work with that mentality, you set yourself up for failure. And if that's what the Cardinals are doing,
Yeah.
because they're not building this continuity,
yeah,
and they're expecting a championship every year, and even though y'all get one every now and then,
yeah,
because y'all still have the second most of all time,
yeah,
then the management is shooting themselves, their team in the foot, and eventually they're going to put themselves in a position like the Cowboys were,
yeah.
where you'll have 5 bad seasons, 1 good season. 5 bad seasons, you know?
Yeah, the unfortunate, like, to your Cowboys reference, and as we always drill them, I mean, I think the probably best since then was it Parcells got the team in a really good state,
Yeah,
and then Jerry ran him off.
yeah.
So, and I mean, to your point, Garrett had some good teams under his tenure, and like talent wise, he had good teams,
And they didn't win.
yeah. So there's that, guys. But let's move on to more of your
Stupid takes that I heard
I'm going
this
to call
week.
this the turkey overload because we're the week after the turkey bites.
All right. So, another stupid take was one you brought it to me. Russell Wilson
Russell.
is to blame for Seattle's woes and has no value to his team. This is from Skip and Shannon.
Yes.
Talk about it.
So, if you watched this earlier today, or
I did not.
They basically were saying that Russell made it very clear by saying that he wanted to leave. He wanted to leave Seattle. He made it very. It's gonna make louder noise. Sorry, give me a second. So Russell made it very clear he allowed his agent to say what teams he would like to potentially play for, and that was pretty much the downside to him this season. And you add the injury, and if he doesn't start playing better, then in the end he's actually hurting himself for a future career that nobody's going to want to pick him up. But he's also the reason that like he's played like crap, and that's why they've just had such a bad season. Now, one, he got an injury early on in the season, actually, because I think he's been out most of the season. And that is why I would say why they're in a bad position. Now, the fact that he's coming back, yes, you would imagine that they would start to turn the ship around. But as we've said about other players, if you haven't been playing, haven't been practicing, you're going to be a little bit rusty. It's going to take a little bit for you to get your bearings back in here. And he's not dealing with, I mean, it's a finger injury, but still that has to do with how you grip the ball, how you're throwing the ball, and things of that nature. It's you need your fingers as a quarterback to hold the ball and throw the ball. So I find it silly. Like, I find this take is silly to say that he's done if he's not winning right now, because, again, an injury, that puts a question mark on if you can recover from it. But I think he's had a good enough career up until this point that you're going to at least entertain this, that I could still use you as my starting quarterback. Yeah, that's it. Like, I don't see this being a problem. And I would say I would look at coaching as more of an issue than just this particular quarterback. There's I always say there's so much more to a player's success of why they're doing good or bad. Is it the system? Is it the coaching? Is it the players? His line
teammates,
yeah. Like, there's so much to it, especially with a quarterback.
Look, one of Seattle's problems is their defense kind of sucks right now.
Yeah.
But to that, part of the reason why their defense sucks is because their offense sucks. And when you put everything on the quarterback, you're missing the reality that the quarterback is a part of the team and he is not the whole team. And I think the best examples of this that I can pull off the top of my head is in the late 90s, the Cowboys had Troy Aikman, who was still a great quarterback, and he was putting the ball where it needed to be for the receivers, and the receivers were dropping it.
Right.
So when they were dropping it, it was killing drives, and then he was getting hit, so we weren't scoring, right? So the Cowboys weren't scoring as much. So the team's record suffered. The quarterback wasn't any worse. His receivers weren't as good.
Right.
The drives got stalled. And I'm not saying Russell Wilson's receivers suck right now because he has some good ones. But I'm using it to illustrate how if everything isn't working in concert with one another, then the team isn't going to have the success even if the quarterback's good. Dan Marino is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. He went to one Super Bowl. One.
Right.
He didn't win it.
No.
And he wasn't the reason why the Dolphins weren't winning. They didn't have a running game.
Right.
Oftentimes they didn't have a defense that was as good.
Right.
A lot of times they did. I remember some great defensive players for them. But even if they had the defense, even if they had the quarterback, without having that running game that they needed,
right,
the team wasn't able to go forward.
Yeah.
And so when you look at Seattle,
I don't even know.
the coaching staff is not putting them in the best positions to score.
Yeah.
The running game, inconsistent. Carson's great one week and then isn't playing the next or
right,
virtually isn't playing. And so you can't really depend on him. And Carson at best is a decent running back.
Right.
He'll show flashes of being a really good running back, but he's too inconsistent for me to put him on the upper echelon of them. And that's why next week we're going to get to my running backs. But so when I'm looking at Seattle, you can't put the blame on Russell.
I hold a lot to their record overall. Like, had he not been hurt, I think the record would have been better.
It could have been. There was a couple close games while he was out that he could have been the difference in.
Because you know what? He doesn't show me that he's not still at least, like, if he's not top 10, he's still in the top 15. Like,
he's definitely
closer to the top 10. Like, even like you're top 12, easy. Even with being injured, like I would like he's still. They were trying to look at like he's 33 years old and now, but 33 years old, Russell still shows like not really like he's not showing any signs of like he's losing a step.
He's still in his prime.
Versus like when I talked about Cam a few years ago, I think even earlier this year, I've said how Cam isn't the Cam that he was.
You said that, and that still holds true right now.
Yeah,
going 5 for 22 or whatever he was this past weekend.
Yeah,
Cam's done.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and I said after Cam went to that Super Bowl, he just never recovered, never came back as the same. And again, where I'm saying is Russell, he still hasn't shown me a chink in his armor to where he's like, if he is starting to show a little bit, it's not enough for it to be like drastic.
Yeah, and he's not on that downward spiral that Cam was on.
Yeah, there's a difference of like, you know, some quarterbacks whenever they start,
you might lose a step, and he might be where he lost the first step.
Yeah, exactly.
But so that's just a stupid take from Skip and Shannon, but they make a lot of those.
Yeah.
All right, so another stupid take. This one's from 105.3 The Fan, G-Back Nation, radio station in Dallas. Tony Pollard should replace Zeke if he has a great game versus the Saints. They're proposing
Why?
that the Cowboys sit Zeke because he's been hurt.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily say that's a bad move if they were to do that. I could get that. But they're going further to say that if they do that and and Pollard goes off, that should tell the Cowboys that they need to move away from Zeke because Zeke is done and he's not going to hold up.
I hate that they like. Why would you even say that? When Gurley, obviously he after they went to that Super Bowl, Todd Gurley, whenever they went to Super Bowl, I seen at the Super Bowl. I said, "Oh, Gurley's done." I didn't know what kind of injury he was dealing with at the time, but I knew that because he wasn't playing and they had brought in Thompson or whatever the other running back in to help relieve him of some of his work duties. I knew Gurley was done at that point, and he hasn't bounced back since then. Zeke being a little banged up right now, I don't see that as being an issue. And I would say that if you watch the game on Thursday, he still was doing a lot of first downs, putting us in really good positions when he was in there.
I'm going to put it like this, man. Zeke right now is 6th in the NFL in rushing.
Yeah.
6th.
Yeah.
6th.
And what
he has 720 yards.
I don't know why we keep having to tell you guys this, because we've said this the last at least 2 or 3 weeks, where you're picking your poison. We've seen Pollard get shut down, and we were like, that's why you need a Zeke.
Yeah, we saw 2 or 3 weeks in a row where Pollard ain't getting nothing because he can't.
We literally seen it this week, and then we were like, oh, well, we need to get this first down. They put Zeke in for 1 or 2 plays for that first down. Then Pollard's back in there, and Pollard's just getting stopped, and then Zeke's back in for the first down.
Yeah, I'll say the problem. The problem is that those guys in particular that are saying this don't like Zeke. They don't like Zeke's contract, and they've been anti-running back for a while. They're part of that philosophy that, any running back, or you can put any running back in. It doesn't matter. They're failing to understand. When I was looking at the statistics a couple weeks back, you had 29 or 32 receivers with 1,000 yards last year.
Yeah.
Okay? And you had 14 running backs with 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
That pretty much means you have at least one 1,000-yard receiver on every team.
Right.
And only less than half of the teams have a running back with 1,000 yards. Which one's more valuable?
Right.
I'm saying that's simple math.
Yeah.
If every team can have a receiver with 1,000 yards and less than half of them can get a running back with 1,000 yards, obviously receivers are easier to find than running backs.
Right.
So if receivers are easier to find than running backs, then you have to value those few running backs who can get you those 1,000 yards.
And again, we're in a league of now. We have very few bell cow running backs.
Running backs that run it or that even get to stay in 3 downs.
Yeah. We have very few and far in between nowadays. Versus like every team, I think now, at least all the ones that I can note that has someone that's a good running back, has another half-ass decent running back to back them.
Minus Titans.
There you go.
But still, when you look at this is a stupid take.
Yeah.
I like listening to the fan. They annoy me when they get to these types of takes, though.
I think that's how I feel about listening to Skip. Like, it's not that I'd like to listen to him because he really does annoy me because, like, I don't see him as a real fan of the Cowboys.
Yeah. He's so fake.
There's one way to be objective, and then there's another way to just, like, bandwagon it, and I feel like he's more bandwagon. Like I think me and you, like we'll say like, nah, they were playing bad. Like right now, we're saying it was the refs, and maybe you want to say it's our bias or whatever, but I think we're being objective. I think if you are just taking away the fact that we are fans of the team, you could like, yeah, those are bad calls. Those are bad situations that we've been talking about. So, but yeah.
All right.
Stupid takes.
Now, the last stupid take we got to talk about, unfortunately, this one comes from Coach Rudy. Yeah, that's me. I'll own this one. The stupid take that I made a few weeks ago, though. I said that the Cowboys shouldn't be picked to lose more than 4 games this year, period.
Okay.
That I proclaimed that you're an idiot if you're picking the Cowboys to lose more than 4 games.
Okay.
And I have to say that ended up being a stupid take. But let me explain why it was a stupid take. It wasn't a stupid take based on what we had seen up to that point. Up to that point, based on how the Cowboys had played,
yeah,
it made sense. The things that I did not factor in was the injuries and the refs.
Okay.
When
or
you're
the COVID.
I put that under the COVID, the injuries. Yeah. When you factor those things in, then yeah, okay. Them losing 5 games is possible.
You know, it's funny.
Right now, I won't doubt that we can run the table. Look at the schedule we have before us.
Yeah.
We got the Redskins, Giants, Redskins.
Yeah.
So after the Saints, that's 3 games that are very winnable.
Yeah.
Then we are going to be home against the Cardinals, who, with their injury woes too, maybe we're back because I know D-Law's coming back. Maybe we're no longer injured. It's very possible that we take care of that one. And then we got Philly at the end that we might be playing for that for home field. But whatever. I can't doubt us running the table. But at the same time, it's a stupid take that I gave because I didn't factor in all of these other things that could affect the team. You know, my bad.
You know, what's funny is the
biggest thing, I took out the kicker. Because he has cost us at least 2 games this year.
Yeah, even at Thanksgiving, I was asking people like, why is he there? Like, why is and the general consensus that I got from what I was asking people, they believe that it's more about like you can't just bring a kicker in and try him out with like COVID protocol and getting him cleared, and they think that's more of why he's still here versus anything else. Which I really want to understand. Like, if I could talk to anyone, Jerry McCarthy, like, explain to me why he, like, me and you both said after the game 1 of him, the misses that he done, just because it was the kickoff of the season, we would have let him go.
Oh yeah, he looked shook.
And to continue on, now we're in week 12, 13, and he's.
I get rid of him now so I can have somebody give me some consistency heading into the playoffs.
100%. Especially playoffs, potential Super Bowl. Like, if you, like, how mad, you know how pissed I will be if we get to a Super Bowl and you got a fucking guy who fucking
I'm calling
shakes.
Every soccer player who has just retired from a Major League Soccer, I mean, because you can get them.
Yeah. I mean, and again, we're not talking about missing a 50, 60-yard fucking field goal.
No.
We're talking about
the extra points.
The extra points.
40 and below.
Right.
You should not miss. If you're a professional,
yes.
You should not be missing anything less than 42 yards.
And this is, again,
especially not with the regularity that he misses them.
Yeah. This is believing that, like, there's not a hand that touches the ball. There's not, like, a gust of wind because you're in the middle of Lambeau Field. Like, this is straight up, nothing has affected it other than the fact that you kicked this fucking ball. Like, they didn't shank the ball whenever they passed it back. Like, no, it's 100%.
The laces where they were supposed to be. Yeah.
This is 100% that. But to add to this, like, what you were saying, at the time that you said that, I completely seen it, but that was assuming like, oh yeah, there's a couple was it NFC East games. There's one that you probably inevitably lose at that time. None of the losses that we've actually taken were maybe one of them was that one might be a loss. The other ones that we were looking at, like we didn't expect this one or that one. Like these,
Yeah, you could have seen maybe KC, but at the time you couldn't because when I made that statement, KC was spiraling.
Yeah, but. What was the one that you said that
Denver?
Yeah, the Denver one you thought might be
a tough game.
Yeah. So just where we were at the time, like you're just like overall, like there's probably 2, maybe 3 moving on from here that we might take. We weren't expecting the game that we got on Thanksgiving. We weren't expecting. You weren't wrong at the time based on what was going on. Now at that point, like seeing that we're having these injuries, seeing that we're having the
seeing
COVID.
the position that we're in now.
Yeah.
The reason I wanted to put that out there is to show you guys that when we make these takes, it's not just us talking out of our butts.
Yeah.
There's real reason and logic behind it, and I'm not afraid to speak on what happened.
Yeah.
Like, I'll let you know what I did, what I said.
Yeah.
All right. So this week, we're going to go ahead and jump into our picks. We're running short on time or long on time. So I'm going to run through the teams that we both picked who are going to win this week. And then we'll finish off with the 3 that we varied on.
Okay.
We both took the Cowboys to beat the Saints, Bucks to beat the Falcons, Cards to beat the Bears, Bengals to beat the Chargers, Lions to upset the Vikes, Dolphins to beat the Giants, the Eagles to beat the Jets, the Colts to beat the Texans, the Rams to beat the Jags, the 49ers to beat the Seahawks, and Monday Night Football's the Bills to lose to the Patriots.
Yes.
The 3 games that we varied was I am picking Washington to beat the Raiders in Las Vegas, and you're taking the Raiders to get that dub.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm really just going off of. I'm actually kind of curious. Like Chicago's got a good defense, but their offense.
Chicago. We're talking about the Washington and
the
Raiders.
Sorry, I thought you said the Bears. The Bears or say that
dude.
I know.
Washington and the Raiders.
Okay. Basically the Raiders. I just think Raiders. I don't like the Washington. It comes down to the NFC East. I'm just not going with.
He's locked on to the Bears because we talked about the Bears upsetting the Cards. We both feel that for whatever reason the Bears might, but the both teams are going out there with backup quarterbacks. And it is in Chicago, so weather's going to factor in. But both of us still are taking the Cards on that. He's just kind of got his head locked in there. All right, so I'm taking the Steelers at home to beat the Ravens, who are the better team. Yes. Once again, I told you divisional games, sometimes the worst team wins, and that's why I'm taking the Steelers on this one.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised Steelers took a big loss. So I wouldn't be surprised if they come back with we gotta recover from that. But I just felt like I went with the better team.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the Ravens are the better team. Just kind of picking against them because somehow the Steelers still have a decent record.
Yeah,
and
it's funny because I've heard.
But we said that at the beginning of the year that Tomlin has never had a losing season.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I hear so many commentators talk about how Ben is checked out. He's no longer it. But I just feel like if he's not, then how are they still?
Oh, he's awful. If you, I know
he's not.
I know you haven't gotten a chance to watch too many of their games.
Yeah.
But man, he is playing awful.
Yeah.
It's the coaching. Tomlin is the difference on why they aren't just free falling because Ben looks god awful.
Well, a good coach can tell.
Well, yeah, and that's why he's one of the best coaches in the league, even when they're not winning.
Yeah.
I'm picking the Broncos to upset the Chiefs
Yeah.
and you're taking the Chiefs to get that win at home.
Yeah.
And I hate picking against the Chiefs when they're at home.
Yeah.
The Broncos, look, I do think it was a fluke when they beat the Cowboys, but they did get a good little win last week against the Chargers.
Yeah.
And I'm going off of that. I think, okay, divisional game, they're going to put everything on the line
Yeah.
this week against their divisional rivals. And even though I do think that the Chiefs are the better team,
Yeah.
I'm picking the Broncos to upset them.
As I said a few weeks ago, it's do or die for the Chiefs. So I'm just expecting them, like, if they're gonna stay in this, they can't really afford to take any more meaningless losses.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, is that all we have for today?
That's all we got for today.
All right, guys. Well, you guys know the drill. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. I know last week's was not uploaded onto YouTube. I will put the audio on your YouTube and as well as this one if you guys are listening to this on the and you guys want to support on both platforms of streaming through Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to us. But yeah, like, comment, share, subscribe. If you want to follow us, follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at SleepyJ, SLEEP_E_J. You can follow Coach Rudy at
Twitter at RudyV1982. And yeah, so y'all have a good week. We will talk to you. What's up?
I was just gonna say, I know you. If you really want, like, best time to interact, like, Coach Rudy does live tweet during a lot of the games. So if you're watching the game and you want to, comment on something that he's tweeting at the time, I think that's a perfect time for you to, and that'll also help us with maybe topics or things that you guys want us to talk about.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right. With that said, guys, I am out until next time. Take it easy.
Peace.